Hello, welcome back to All For United WFC. This makes a change, doesn't it? The last time we were live on this channel, it was all a little bit depressing because we had the Zellum departure, we had the Earps departure, but now we can talk about an incoming finally. I know we've had one already with Janssen. We are going to dive into that a little bit towards the end because we've not done a live show since that got announced. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but obviously the main focus today, if you've been living under a rock and you've missed it, Melvine Malard is back on a permanent deal. We're all wondering at the end of the season, all of the questions we were asking, is that the last time we've seen her in a United shirt and all that kind of thing? Well, she has decided to come back for 3 more years as well. It's not a short-term deal again for a year or so, 3 years to 2027. So lots to get into on that one. So I'll just ask the panel straight off the back in terms of their initial thoughts on it, because, the overwhelming feeling, I think, is excitement on this one. But Jess, how are you feeling on this one?
Oh, I am absolutely buzzing, to be fair. She was one of, she just was one of my favourite players last season. Like, one of the kind of real sparks of kind of joy we basically had. I think both on and off the pitch, she really was kind of a little bright spark for the whole season. So the fact that she is staying, I don't think there's going to be any United fans that are kind of disappointed at that. I think we were all rooted for and really hoping she was going to stay. So yeah, I am over the moon.
And Barry, I'll throw it over to yourself. We've literally just posted a picture of Malard, which is what I was just getting a little bit distracted on there. They've done a little photo reel for her, which is nice. For those of you following United Women on Instagram. Yeah, just your initial thoughts on seeing this one today.
Well, I mean, it was one we were hoping for, wasn't it? You know, we knew that obviously she'd been off on loan with us. I mean, I was intrigued because she's actually made 29 appearances for us, and I was talking to you earlier on, and that surprised me. I didn't think she'd have made as many as 29. I just recall there being that period where she didn't seem to be featuring too much, which gave us a bit of a worry. But certainly from the very start of her career at Manchester United, I thought she performed incredibly well. She was dangerous in front of goal. She was always looking for the ball. She wanted it. She was showing for it. Her movement was good. She played across the front three. She's played as the linchpin, the person that we need to aim the ball towards. She's played down the left and not so much down the right. But she's got that capability. And I just think it's vital sort of news, really, you know, when you have the number of high-profile players that we've had leaving, you know, losing the likes of Katie Zellum and Mary Earps, as you mentioned. You know, it does become a bit of a worry. So I think when you can pull out a contract for 3 years for a striker of the quality of Melvine Malard, having played at a club like Lyon, which is, you know, pretty decent, really. You know, we kind of have to look at that as a massive positive. And I know we'll get to Janssen as well, but I think for 2 signings there, they are certainly statements of intent.
Oh, that's exactly the question I want to come back to in terms of what this means as the wider picture, because it's not been all positive around United in the last couple of weeks. Rightly or wrongly, people have their opinions of that. Kevin, I think, well, Barry did just answer your question there. It is 3 years, 2027, a contract expires. I want to get this kind of nipped before we move on, because there's been a few questions and comments about Turland already. Obviously, that being the next player that we're linked to. Those of you may have seen, we tweeted earlier in reply to someone else. So as far as we understand it, there is a slight delay with the Elizabeth Turland deal. That it's not actually fully complete yet. So we might have to wait a little bit longer. There's a few complications in the deal on that one that we might have to wait for. Still expected to get done. It should still get over the line, but it's just going to be a little bit longer, we feel, on that one. So we need to be a bit more patient. We'll get there, hopefully, and that one gets over the line. But I thought I'd get that out of the way from the start of this show. We'll keep an eye on it, but at the moment, it's not actually done. So we've got a little bit of time to go before that one. Andrew, Barry referenced it there in terms of, and Jess has said it as well. Like, and as the comments kind of back up, you know, as Ema's saying, you know, she was a bright spot last season. We saw how much it meant to her kind of on and off the pitch, you know, celebrating with the fans all the time. What's your just initial thoughts on seeing her staying for 3 more years?
I was going to say, it's good news coming out of United at the moment after, you know, the last couple of weeks of, you know, departures and the issues with the training ground. So it's good that she's, you know, signed for 3 more years as well. And plus, she says she's in familiar surroundings, so she can literally hit the ground running at the start of the season. So, they say when she was playing for us last season, she just got excited at what she was going to do on the ball. She could hold up the ball really well. Players that were the opposition trying to get the ball off, they're finding it very difficult. And I just think back to last season, scoring on a home debut, against Arsenal, and then the PSG game as well. And you just think, what she'd done throughout the season, helped us to win the FA Cup too as well. I'm just thinking, I just remember back to the semi-final against Chelsea, her celebrating at the end. It was just you could just see the joy in her face, and just celebrating with us all. So I'm glad she's, staying with us. I'm looking forward to seeing, how that front line's going to work out next season. So I know there was the debate last season, where was she better, on the wing or through the middle? So we'll see where her position gets defined for her next season as well.
No, absolutely. I want to come back to that in terms of where we think she best fits into the current squad of players that we've got. Because we did tweet a graphic the other day in terms of players how our squad is currently shaping up for next season, with kind of obviously Malard and Turlin were on there, and Keats and Guerrero are also on there, but they were in yellow because there is a very good possibility they move on. So that's why they were in yellow. For those of you who were questioning us, going, why are they in different colours? That was why on the team that we did put out. Jess, I briefly referenced it there in terms of there's a lot of negative noise around United at the moment. It's been taking quite a bashing, particularly from the women's side. And like I said rightly, there's things to, I guess, and issues going on behind the scenes there. Are you surprised amongst all that we've managed to convince a player? Because it's all very well and good, we triggered a buy option. She didn't have to accept. She could have just said, no, I'm not going there. Are you surprised amongst all that we've managed to convince a player that's won the Champions League multiple times? Lyon got to the final last year. They will probably do the same again this coming season to come back to United.
Well, I think I've said it quite a few times last few shows. In general, I'm dead pessimistic. But I think signings like this, and also Melvine, who's literally been with us for a year and is, a really good player, Champions League player, fantastic. I think it's important to remember that maybe what we just see on Twitter and what we hear in the news, maybe isn't actually always the case. And I will hold my hands up and say I'm one of the first people to read a negative headline and be like, my God, United are rubbish, blah, blah, blah. But I think maybe the reality is, don't get me wrong, there's obviously things going wrong behind the scenes. But there's also got to be things going right. These players aren't going to hang around or want to sign for us if they're not being offered something. And it's not only just a case of being offered something, but they've got to be able to see that United are going to come through. So I do think, and we've been seeing it for decades and decades with the men's team, everyone loves to talk about United, basically, because at the end of the day, talking about United sells. It gets clicks, it sells papers. No matter what you want to say, you just have to mention United, and especially putting a negative spin on things, and it's going to get clicks and everyone's going to hop on board. And like I say, I'll hold my hands up and say that I'm bad for it as well, because I'll read something, like I said, and immediately be like, my God, look, things are terrible there. But, if you take Melvine, for example, she played for us last season, obviously on loan. Things weren't great. We kept getting more and more negative things coming out, negative reports, performances weren't fantastic. She did not have to stay. She was a loan player. It's not like she's even contracted. She has chosen to sign a contract based on a year's football in what was potentially our worst season. So, something's got to actually be going well behind the scenes that we don't see. And I think as fans, we do need to remember that we actually don't know what's going on. We love to guess and we love to read things and just assume the worst. But do you know what? It's probably a good thing, because maybe things aren't actually as bad as we think they are. So, these moves are hugely positive, and we need to just hope that, we can kick on from this and progress both on the pitch and off the pitch and kind of behind the scenes.
No, absolutely. It's something I've said a lot in the last kind of couple of weeks, that there's definitely things wrong at United. And I don't think that's any surprise. I think it's been obvious for years that there's been issues at United. Highline saying there it's a testament to how she's fitted in with the group. You've seen how much the squad unity has been praised the last couple of years. You've only had to see the likes, obviously, when Mary, Lucia and Zell have left, the unity amongst themselves when they've left with the player post that we've seen prior to post those girls leaving as well. Barry, again, I sort of throw the same question over to you in terms of, as Lanza was saying, it's a massively positive signing to get a player like this. I remember when we were linked to her last year and I approached somebody saying, I believe, Mallard's going to get done. And they were like, yeah, there's no way Malard is going to United. And obviously now we're sat here 12 months on having a permanent deal for her. Does it surprise you a little bit, or are you, I guess, thinking a little bit differently to that?
It did surprise me a little bit, but the reason why it surprised me is very different. The reason it surprised me is purely because, certainly looking at the videos after the game against Chelsea, it looked like she was saying goodbye. It didn't look like she was saying see you next season. And, she sort of paused for a while and really sort of took it in. So I think from my point of view, that was the surprise. I did think that maybe, she goes back to Lyon. We haven't got Champions League. We're not, go on a high, having won the FA Cup. And that was my initial feeling on the situation. So for her to, as Jess says, to look at everything that has gone over the course of the season, it's so interesting because people talk a lot, as we've just said. There's points in the comments about the toxicity of the fan base and all manner of things. And the thing is that fans are always going to be vocal. That's always the case. And when you start looking at things such as, Player FC, for example, like the world knows, it doesn't take much. The world knows how highly I rated Katie Zellum. But, the minute I ripped off that tie in the middle of the poem, that's the shedding of the skin. She's not a Manchester United player anymore. So life moves on. I'll always have a soft spot for Katie Zellum, and I hope she goes on to do incredibly well. But Manchester United is my football club. That's the one that I support, and that will be forevermore. So when you have those sorts of situations, you're going to get negativity. But people all too easily push that negativity into one place or onto one thing. And Mark Skinner got a lot of criticism last season, some of it deserved, some of it possibly a bit harsh. But that's the problem. Everybody wants to look for a reason. Everybody wants to look for the drama and place blame somewhere. And that's the big problem when it comes to the negativity that's around the club. It was very interesting because Jay put on here that he didn't think there were many signings, as Jim Ratcliffe has made it abundantly clear that the men's team is his priority. And he has, and that's, whether you agree with it or disagree with it isn't really the point of the conversation on this. But the reason why I brought it up is because just because Jim Ratcliffe hasn't started to deep dive into it and sort out the structure and do all of those sorts of things, there's still a structure. Manchester United didn't get rid of Polly Bancroft and then go, well, don't worry about it. We won't worry about it next season. The plans were still in place. They still knew what they wanted to do. And the fact that we've pulled out the signings of Malard for 3 years, Janssen for a few years, possibly Turland, if you're to believe the reports, all of these, that's 3 massive, massive signings. And when you have that situation of getting those players in, it's just typical United. We always have that bit where the season ends, there's a bit of negativity. Oh, now's the time to get rid of Skinner, this, that, the other. There's always that. And then we have a few signings. Before you know it, we're in the league. And that's, that constant cycle. And it happens everywhere. It's going to happen with the men's team as well. So, they will get there. And they will get to a point where they'll start to look at what the women are doing. I mean, Anzel's saying, I think Jim is learning. I say this with the greatest respect. I'm just not sure people really understand how football clubs run sometimes, because it's not about his learning at all. He knows what he wants to do. It's just people, the job is so big, guys. It really is just so big that you've got to, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? Bit by bit. You can't just stick the whole thing in your gob and chew, because it's not going to work, is it? So you're going to have to chop it up, use a knife and a fork. Connor's all over that. He would use that on pretty much any savouring food item. He was just eating an egg and cress sandwich with a knife and fork as well. It was outrageous behaviour. So I digress. Anyway, it's brilliant, fantastic. Did I expect it? No. Am I glad that it happened? Absolutely bloody delighted, Wallace. Thank you.
Just to clear up any allegations, I was not eating an egg and cress sandwich with a knife and fork, just to throw that out there.
I retract that statement. He didn't. I know what you like.
Because people are believing this.
Hyperbole.
Just throwing that
The
out
fact
there.
they would believe it, Connor, is a negative on your part.
The fact we're eating an egg and cress sandwich is a negative, in my opinion, but that's, we'll leave it at that.
Andrew say otherwise. Andrew, before I come over to you, because
Egg
obviously
and cress sounds a little bit like
Oh,
that tactic that, what's his name, Ralph Ranić wanted to use.
Is it Gegenpress?
what
Going to
game
use the egg and cress push.
Yes.
look what you've done here. This is the reputation I've got these days. Anyway, but the reason I asked that question, and Lanza, I do agree with you. I think I've heard nothing but good things about Dan Ashworth, and Barada, as you mentioned, was heavily involved in what City did, obviously with Hemp and the infrastructure they built for the women's team and everything else. So I think both of those are very, very positive moves for the club, and something I want to come back to when we talk a little bit about Janssen as well. But yeah, Andrew, for yourself, like so there's been a lot of, I guess, negativity around this. But as Barry briefly touched on it there, these deals would have been done for a bit of time. United haven't just all of a sudden woke up and gone, oh, should we fancy Malard? Yeah, let's get her back in for another few years. Because it goes. I will just briefly reference Janssen because it's part of the question. Janssen, in an interview, I can't remember whether it was earlier this week or last week, said that the decision was made for her in January, which means United have been sorting out summer deals for a long time before we've known about them. So again, are you surprised with everything going on that we've managed to convince a player like Malard to come back and sign for 3 more years?
Probably, yeah, a little bit surprised because given the negativity that surrounded the club, but let's say maybe things are not as bad as we all think it is, and the structure is getting there in place for United now as well. And I'm just thinking, with Sir Jim and Ineos now in, I'm just thinking under the Glazers, with the men's football, you take ages to get a player to come to the club, 3 or 4, several weeks, and, they've only just got in just before the start of the season, whereas it feels like a bit more proactive now in the transfer window. Now, Janssen's coming, now Mallard's coming. It just feels like the next player is coming along as well. So for Melvine to come in as well, she said she felt so welcomed by us fans as well, and I'll be happily singing her songs in the Sansa next season as well. So to say she was a bright light in dark times last season, because last season, well, for the women's team and the men's, it was felt like hell at times, and I'm just like, but it all ended, on a good note with the FA Cup wins as well. So I'm, surprised she, the deal got over the line, but I'm, very much happy she's staying. She said, she's come to a great club, and she says she made her home here last season. So hopefully we'll be winning more trophies with her in the side as well. And I just think she's probably been convinced, by what's going forward. I know Mary, said in a message saying, "Oh, the club's going into a transition," but Melvine's been convinced of something, in this transitional period, where United are going forward. So hopefully, it's going to be plenty of good times for United in the coming years.
No, fingers crossed. And Highland's reference in there in terms of, Malard was never removed from the side. She was front and centre of the new kit. I think, I'm not going to say a date because I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure the kits were photographed like at least a couple of months ago. Long again, mid-March, April, I'm going to say they were. So again, if Malard wasn't staying, you don't start organising all that and do. And now I know that there's players that have done the kit. Mary did do the photo shoot as well, and obviously she has moved on. But as I repeatedly said when she was about to leave, that decision for her to leave wasn't made until literally about a week before. So a little bit different. But with the other players, obviously they weren't in them. So I think it's a little bit strange. Sorry, I've been a bit distracted. People know international games are going on at the moment. So if people haven't saw, Iceland beat Germany 3-0. The Czech Republic have just beat Spain 2-1, and the Scotland game's been called off because of some kind of monsoon or some heavy rain that's going on. It's all kicking off in international football this afternoon. So I've just been a little bit distracted seeing all these messages coming in about all kinds of things that's going on. Andrew, I'll come back to. I'm going to do it in reverse order this time. So Andrew, I'm going to come back to you. Lanzau's question, it's kind of one I had written down anyway, in terms of where we think she's going to fit in. Because we've seen her play as centre forward off the left. Her best season for Lyon was off the left. So that's where she scored the most goals from. She does seem like a very clinical forward as well. We've all said that throughout the season, that she does seem to suit number 9. Where do you think she's coming back to fit in with next season?
That's the debate we had all last season. Where was she best playing? And I just think, knowing from Mark Skinner, I just think he doesn't likes players to have that fluidity, so they're not literally tied down to one position. That front line they can interchange. So I don't know whether he's going to go down that same route, and where she's could be on the wing, or then she's brought through the middle. It all depends, and I just think from what I've seen of her, I just think maybe coming in off the wing and then getting the goals that way, maybe the best position for her. But who knows? At the start of the season, Skinner might decide to put her through the middle. So, but it depends who's that front line's going to be. If Mallard's starting, who she's alongside as well. So, but I would put her on the wing. So I think that's where she can do the most damage in games as well. Taking on the opposition, which she can do, and the runs she makes forward as well, and her dribbling as well. Just like it's one of the best. It's almost like very graceful on the ball as well. She is. So it's just like it just stays at her feet. It's just like try and get it off her if you can. So, but that's where I would play her on the wing. But to say she could interchange if need be during the game, switch it up. But we'll have to see, come the start of the season.
No, absolutely. I mean, Barry, I'll throw this over to yourself. There's a couple, again, kind of mixed options. Paul's saying she's a 9. Choose going for a formation change, maybe a 2 up top that we could see. A couple of WSL teams do seem to be going that way. I wouldn't be surprised to see City do that next season with Miedemar and Bunny Shaw as well. They might go for a 2 up top kind of system. Where do you think Mallard's going to fit in? Because like I said, we've seen her in both positions and she's done well in both. She scored for us in both positions.
I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, you're basically asking me to second guess Mark Skinner, which is becoming increasingly difficult to do. He's been a bit of a vigilante in that respect, it making it very difficult for us to guess what he's going to do. I sometimes found that Melvine's best performances came when she did come from the left. Certainly while she was performing in place of Leah Goulton, but she does have the ability to lead the line. I think, we spoke a lot about the fluidity of the front three, and I think that's always quite important if they're able to change about. I would not be against having a front three that change regularly within a game, because it really does make a difference to the players that have to defend against that. It makes it really difficult. If for 1 minute you think, oh, well, that's all right, we've got Melvine Malard, we'll stick you on her. Then the next thing you know, you've got somebody else. Nikita Paris is up there, which is completely different. I think those sorts of things could definitely work. But honestly, I just think, the most important thing is that she plays. I don't want to see her as being an impact sub. I kind of feel like she's the sort of person around the front three who could have the team sort of built around her. Now, the interesting thing would be if we do get Queen Elizabeth III, because if she does arrive to the football club, then we're in a situation where who do you start? My argument there would be you would start Turland in the front position, and you would put potentially Mallard out to the left, which then asks you what do you do with Leah Goulton. So, that's good because it means we're actually starting to get some depth there, even if you're thinking of bringing Mallard on or Turland on from the subs bench for the swap. So I think there's lots of possibilities there. To the point that I just knocked together a very quick poem to put across my thoughts for the Melvine Malard situation. It's a different type of poem. It's a short one. It's not like ones I've done before. And it goes like this. There was a young lass named Melvine, who the fans were so pleased to have seen. She went back to France and re-signed at first chance. Now can Skinner please play her? We're keen.
All right, that's a song sorted for next season. If we can work that into a song somehow. Oh, there we go. Don't know how to follow that. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for coming in. Great to have new people in here, as always, and some familiar and old faces as well. It's good to see some of you back on the channel as well. Jess, I'll throw it over to you then in terms of a position. Ema's mentioned there, if we're getting quality coming in from the wings, we really need quality runners into the box as well, because last season that was definitely something that we didn't see. We had a lot of the ball last season, but not too much movement in front of that. Where do you where do you want to see her next season in terms of that front line?
To be honest, I'm kind of very similar to Barry. Like, I was going to say that I think for me, getting that kind of fluidity back would actually probably be the best thing. So rather than seeing like a fixed position, just see a bit of a mix almost of both. I think we struggled with it a little bit last season. I think we saw it more potentially the season prior to that, with like Russo dropping in sometimes, Toon pushing forward, and then that front three kind of interchanging. And I think that's what helped us get so many goals in that season, because basically anyone could score at any time. So I think getting that kind of relationship built back up with sort of the front three, front four, whatever you want to kind of call them, would be pretty perfect. I think when we saw her play mostly off the wing, I thought she was fantastic. I thought her and Jace especially had very good link-up play. Sometimes when they were both on the pitch together, it was like they've been playing with each other for years, to be honest. They just seem to be able to find each other. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that, to be honest. So I think it'll definitely be interesting as to whether she does finally get played, where she finally gets played, because I honestly don't think I could really predict it. I think it changed quite a bit as well last season. I don't think Skinner was potentially sure of who he kind of wanted and where. And like we've said, if Big Lizzie T comes in, then it'll be interesting to see how that kind of works. For me, I reckon she's probably going to end up playing through the middle, with then Jason Mallard kind of left and right, which would be, I think that is a dangerous front three. If you can get those three linking up, playing nicely between them, and get that kind of fluidity back, then that could be kind of, an unstoppable front line, really.
No, absolutely. And I think I've only just realised, Joseph, that it's you from the TikTok like. I now remember who you are, because you're usually the ones where we go from like 2K likes to about 40,000. Because you absolutely spam them.
He's the one who looks like a lion or a tiger. That's a tiger. Looks like a tiger.
So it's great to have you in the YouTube chat. I don't think I've seen your name in here before, which is always good. We always have fun on the TikToks, don't we? So it's great to see you in, and obviously Ella as well. Good to see you in here as always.
Technically, you can spam it. It'll just be. It's a bit like when I used to go walking, and there's a part on Snowdon that you can walk on around there, which is beautiful. And there's a point where, as you're walking along, you're like along a line, and if you take a step over to the left, you're in England, and you take a step over to the right, you're in Wales. And you can just do that. You can be sort of like, I'm in England, I'm in Wales, I'm in England, I'm in Wales. I like it, I don't like it, I like it, I don't like it, but just don't push the dislike one, that's all.
Yes, definitely not. While we're on that, make sure you're liking the video, subscribing. If you're new around here, it helps us a lot. We've gained a lot of new subs. I set a target for the channel of 3K subs by the end of the year, and since then we've probably gained about 200-300. So we're on track now to hit that. So if you are new around here, that would be greatly appreciated. Costs absolutely nothing. All you've got to do is literally click the icon where it says subscribe. That's all you need to do, and it helps us a lot. I was just having a quick look, because we did get a question from David before we came live, or a comment saying that Melvine should take the number 10 shirt. This is not something I'm not entirely sure is the reason as to why, because she's currently number 9, and I think that suits her probably better. Do we think, just a very quick conversation, is there any need, does anyone think, to change her shirt number from what it was last season? Or we pretty, because I don't believe anyone's got number 10, unless we're going to see some changes for next season. But I don't think last season we had anyone in number 10 from a shirt number. I'm just going down the list now. Galton's 11. Malard was 9. So I don't think we had a 10.
No, I don't remember seeing somebody with a number 10 shirt. So if Melvine wants the number 10, she can have it if she wants, but she might want to just stick with the number she's already got.
I think that's the thing. It just comes down to the players, really, doesn't it? Lots of players I mean, like talk to Palantala's choice. Why does she wear such a mental number on her shirt? What's the point? Mary Earp's never wanting to actually be the number 1. Picking another number instead. So the way I see it, if they want to do it, let them do it. If there's the room to do so, but it's not.
Of course, she was
important. We don't need to talk about this. Come on. Come on now.
We took it quite literally when Barry said we move on as soon as they leave.
Yeah. Just forgot she.
Just completely forgot.
Casey,
Sorry,
who?
Sorry to Zan if you're watching this.
I'll also just say, like, she's not even gone yet, and already we're trying to just move our song onto somebody else. Like, come on now, come on, you're kidding me, you lot.
Oh, yeah, David, I can't believe that. It's because I'm looking at the squad list, and I'm so used to seeing Zell's name on the list. It's going to take a while to get used to, I think, not seeing Zell and Mary for that matter, because every time I go to tweet about the Lionesses, who's picked for the Lionesses, I keep going to say Mary Earps. Obviously, we don't do that now because she's no longer with us in the team either. But there we go. Jess, any thoughts now? Do you think Melvin keeps the number 10? Keeps the number 9? Because there's a few shouts that Clinton gets the 10. Quite a lot of people have said that.
I think that's a good shout, to be honest. I think that would be pretty fitting for her. I don't see why Melvine, like, normally it would kind of be the opposite. A player would go from like 10 to 9 in that kind of like striker role. So, I mean, I've been like it when I've played football. I've always wanted number 7. So, like, I fully understand players that, want to come to a team and get a specific number and they like negotiate that into their contract and stuff like that. Like, I am fully behind that. I get it. So, it really, I guess Melvine will probably maybe get first dibs, but I think unless she has some affinity to the number 10, I can't see why she'd change. But yeah, I think given it's Clinton is a really good shout, actually, as well. Hopefully, finally get to see her a bit in a United shirts. That'd be nice.
Indeed. There's a couple of questions about in terms of where players are going to fit in. I've actually just uploaded the graphic to StreamYard, the one that I tweet. So I want to come back to that. I want to quickly touch on Janssen in a second. I want to come back to where we think players are fitting in and how our squad is currently shaping up with the 2 signings in there at the moment. Kevin was asking when the WSL fixture will be announced. It's in the next 2 weeks, as far as I'm aware, but there's not actually been a confirmed date for it. But so I hear it's within the next 2 weeks. But like I said, there's not a date. Once we find out, and we're allowed to maybe say, we will do. But at the moment, I'm not just saying that. I genuinely don't know. Well, nobody does because they've not confirmed it with anyone yet. But it'll be soon. And we can finally look at who we've got on the first game of the season. That's always the ones I look to. First game, last game, where's your derbies? That's always the ones I look out for when we see fixtures. Everything else, not too fussed. It's mainly those that I'm keen on. I wanted a brief touch on Janssen while we're talking about incomings and things like that then, because we've not done a live show since, and obviously myself and Miriam did the player profile show on her. If you haven't already, go and give that a watch. Truth, I'll come back to your question as well in a second. Barry, I will start with you because you're the only person I haven't started with first in this one. Just your initial thoughts overall on getting her in. Again, a player from Wolfsburg, was heavily linked to City. That was all the reports that she was going to City, and then we swooped in and she signed with us already.
I mean, listen, we've had good luck signing people from Wolfsburg. If I'm not mistaken, was that not where Mary Earps came from? Yeah, thank you very much. Good, just checking my knowledge there. Just wanted to make absolutely sure I hadn't had a brain fart. We've already had one of those today. But yeah, listen, we've had really good luck signing from those places because, she won a couple of Bundesligas there. She's been at Arsenal as well, won the Conti Cup, won the FA Cup, won the league there as well. So, she 100% is an absolute diamond. This is a good player that we've managed to get. And it's one of those where you sit there and think, my God, what's going to happen now? When you look at the quality of centre back we brought in, I mean, May Letizia is starting right back for England today. And I think really most of us thought that when we signed her, that was going to be the replacement for Onabatie. And obviously it wasn't. It ended up being a centre-back situation. And her and Millie have had a very, very good partnership. Aoife Mannion, when she was fit, was doing incredibly well. But you have to question now, how good she's going to be with the injuries that she's had and the fact that she's had 2 ACLs, big problems for her to sort of deal with. So, you do wonder what that starting lineup's going to be and how she's going to fit in, because I can't see a world where this player who has won league titles and cups is going to come to Manchester United just to sit on the bench. The proof in the pudding is going to be whether or not the first of the 3 years is involved using the Mark Skinner 40 game test, whereby she has to learn via a handbook all of the different possible passages of play, it's easy for me to say, that could happen if she plays next to Millie, or if she plays next to if she plays next to Riviere, or if it's somebody else. And that really, I think, is going to be the tricky bit. For me, this is a player that you bring in and she's got to be a starter, because this woman knows how to win. And that's part of the thing that we've needed. We spoke lots of times about trying to get across the line against Chelsea and managing to get over that mental block. We finished second before. We haven't managed to make it to first. And that's a mental block now. We've got to try and do that extra bit. This is someone who knows how to win titles, possibly a captain in the making. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. I think she has got the potential to be one of, if not the best players we've had, and I think the most likely to have an impact on our defence, like Honor, since Honor.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if anyone saw her interview that she's done recently, when she's talking about being out of the Champions League, she made it very clear. She's like, being out of the Champions League for a season, yes, but she spoke very openly. She needs to be back in it next season. So, well, not next season, the season after. She set the bar high already, that she's coming in and basically said, that's basically a thing to the team, like saying, look, I'm not settling for fourth, fifth. We're getting back into the top three and into the Champions League. And a player like her, as you mentioned, she's captained the sides and won trophies anywhere she's been. And I agree. I don't think she's definitely not coming to sit on the bench. From what I understand, the reason she didn't go to City is because of guaranteed game time. So that to me tells me she is starting. Now it comes a question of where, because she's played in defensive midfield, she's played at centre back, she's played at left back. So one of those positions could be hers. Jess, I'll come over to you then on this one in terms of, again, surprised, happy with this one? Because I'm surprised it was our first sign, I can't lie. There was talk that maybe we might get her, but the first one over the line announced. And yeah, are you happy with this one as well?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think kind of similar to where we started the show, talking about can United pull big players? How do we all feel about the club? I think this, again, is proof that maybe things aren't actually as bad as we all think. And Barry is right to be positive and try and help us be positive. So I think, yeah, from that side of things, I think it's a really good signing. I think one of the best things potentially about it won't even necessarily be on the pitch. I think we've lost some big voices kind of this summer. We've lost Zell and Mary Earps, who were going to be big kind of leaders in the group. So I think having a player coming in with her kind of experience, and she's played in the WSL before for I think 4 or 5 years, so she's well experienced, and I'd like to think that she's come in and kind of slot straight into almost being a sort of leader within the team. Obviously, we're going to see a new captain this season as well, so whoever kind of gets that armband, it's going to be a completely fresh start, and they're probably going to need kind of, United have always said they've got a leadership group, and I think they're going to need that kind of new leadership group to basically move the team forward. So I'm just laughing at the Egan press again. That sent me that. Yes, so I think moving forward, I think having a player of her caliber, even just behind the scenes, is going to be a huge boost, because I think as a team, it does need to sort of restabilize almost with some big players leaving. You can't deny that is going to kind of upset the apple cart a bit, and probably isn't going to have been ideal for the team. So yeah, I think getting a player like that really shows that, United still do have a lot of pull to get someone of her caliber in. And I am very excited to see, I'm just excited for the season, actually, to be honest. I think now that we are seeing the positive side of things, it's easier to kind of get behind the team again and be excited almost. So, and it's still early days as well. You know, I said to Connor earlier that the transfer window, you know, it's nowhere near sort of closing. And bear in mind, a lot of teams won't move players around, or players themselves won't want to move until after the Olympics. So we could see some kind of late activity. So I think a lot to kind of stay positive for. And, you know, if the transfer window continues as it is, it's kind of starting, then we should be in a good position for the start of the season.
No, I agree. I'll bring that graphic up once after I've come to Andrew on this one, because Jess mentioned the off-the-field stuff, and that's kind of been echoed in the comments as well, talking about experience that she's had. As I mentioned, she's captain side. She's played in, I think she's played in World Cup finals, Euros finals, you know, challenging for titles at Arsenal and Wolfsburg, like in the top two, you know, two of the top two leagues in Europe as well. Like she's got experience, and I think Jess is right to mention the voices we've lost off the field in Zell and Mary in particular. Is that a big benefit for you, Andrew, the fact we're bringing in a player that can be that leader as well as what she can do on the pitch?
Yeah, she brings that wealth of experience at both club and international level. She's won titles, you know, with Arsenal, Wolfsburg as well. One of the senior members of the Dutch squad. She's part of the Euro 2017 winning team under Serena Wiegman as well. So, yeah, she's a proven winner both domestically and internationally as well. So it's that winning mentality, you know, will be an important addition to us for the next 3 years, because I think she's signed for 3 years. I think was it a further option for a year after that as well. So also signing a player with such pedigree as well, you know, don't think cannot be understated as well, because I think we've lost two good leaders, you know, in Zellem and Earps as well. So bringing in Janssen, you know, bring some of that leadership back amongst the players as well. So hopefully we should be able to reclaim a Champions League spot, you know, next season. But her experience, you know, playing for Wolfsburg in that competition will be incredibly valuable as well. So, but also her versatility as well. So I think when she played for Arsenal, she operated in the midfield role and then transitioned to a centre back at Wolfsburg, and then for the Dutch squad as well. So, and can play left back as well. So where Skinner sees her best, that's going to be another question. But she's going to offer you know, immense depth, you know, in multiple positions. And I know. Remember Skinner saying last season he needs that depth in the squad, so he's got a player that can play in a multiple position as well. So, yeah, let's say going into the new season, you know, it's going to be one of our, you know, one of the biggest tests, you know, since we got into the WSL, and so big names have departed. So, and, you know, it's been said, you know, it's going to be a transitional time, but, you know, Janssen's arrival, it's almost like we're going in the right direction. So, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what Skinner decides her best position is going to be. But I can see her providing stern competition for Millie Turner, as you know, as they're both playing that left-sided centre back position as well. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think that's definitely a possibility, and as people have referenced in the chat, her set pieces, for those of you who haven't watched any much of the Fran Budders, we've got our set piece taker sorted. I think if she is starting, she is taking them. Her set pieces are unbelievable, particularly corners. Wolfsburg scored a lot of goals from corners over the last couple of years while she was on set pieces as well. And I think, Joe, this is a really good point to mention as well. We complained a lot last summer that players didn't get a pre-season because we signed players so late, you know, in the window with Miyazawa and Malard and Fallon, Gabby George, these times of players we signed really late into the window, so they didn't get a pre-season with United really. So we were playing catch-up constantly at the start of the season, whereas now we've got 2 players in, potentially 3 if we can get Turland over the line as well, that are going to have a full pre-season with the current squad. You've got Emma Watson and Gabby George coming back into the team. They're going to have a pre-season with United as well. To bed them back in. I've said for a while, they are basically like 2 new signings to me, because we didn't see them really last season. So that's 2 more players that potentially can fill slots in as well. I see, Barry, you've started a comment. I'll let you come to that one in just a second, because I just want to this one, Joe. The reason why people are saying Thursday is because last season they came out on the 18th, which I believe is Thursday, which is why that's floating around. I think it might be that. I don't know, but from what I hear, it might be the week after on that one. So it could be then. We'll see. But it's a bit, I said, no one's actually got a confirmed date at the moment. People are all guessing as to when it might be. But it's soon. It's definitely in the next 2 weeks, which is good. Barry, you starred the back 3 comment.
Yeah, I found it very interesting because at first thought I was thinking, oh, he's lost the plot a little bit there. In a nice way, Sand, I'll explain. She said he's put 3 at the back. System could work like the one the England's men's team uses at the moment. He does say he doesn't think it will change it, but initially I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, well, you can have Millie, obviously, you'd have Mayer, and then of course you'd have Janssen as well. And then you start thinking about, well, in that sort of situation, you could go 3-5-2. That's effectively what you're looking at there. And you're talking about having like your Hannah Blundell and your Gabby George, and of course your Jade Riviere on the wing back situation. And I started to think, well, that's not going to happen because we've got players that play left forward and right forward. So you've got your Leah Goulton, your Jays, your Paris, potentially your Mallard. And then I started to think that through a bit more. And actually, the one thing we often think about when we start looking at those people from the left and the right is they don't necessarily come in and create anything because they're just looking for that one person, a Rachel Williams, someone like that. So what I started to think there is that actually this could be quite a good idea. You know, maybe he's pulled a rabbit out of the hat here, because if you can have a Riviere at right back, have a solid back 3, which will help us because defensively we were not as good last season as we were the season before. That could be what you need, to try and cover any possible mistakes and things like that. We haven't got Mary Earps in goal, so there's going to be a little bit of a transition there. It might be the time to start thinking about that sort of change. People like Jade Riviere, Hannah Blundell, they could potentially do the work down the wings, getting the ball into the middle, but that gives the middle 3 that opportunity to really then start to try and boss the midfield. It means you can bolster it. How many times did we see Jade Riviere, for example, having to come into the middle anyway to try and help support Katie Zenham? She could do that a lot more. And I think it does offer a lot more fluidity. And then it gives you those 2 people up front, which means you could potentially have Mallard and Queen Elizabeth up at the front. It would be awesome. So actually, I really, really like it.
Yeah, it's something I could see. Certainly in big games where, potentially we're going to be defending a bit more. It's definitely a system I can see us use. And I think that's the beauty of signing a player like that, like Janssen, is we've now got more versatility in the squad. We're seeing Mayer tonight play for the Lionesses at right back. She's playing centre-back for United and has played in defensive midfield as well. And same with Janssen, left back, centre back, and defensive midfield as well. So we've got players there that can play in multiple positions. Truth was asking, there's any news on play? Not at the moment. Again, like Jess said, it's still early in the window, and I think Tom Gary referenced this on a podcast the other day that United will probably do a lot of deals late again. I think we'll probably get turned over the line, and I think that'll probably be it for a while until after the Olympics, and then we might see a flurry again of incomings and so on. But I don't think I'm going to bring this on screen now because I'm conscious the game, the Lioness game kicks off in 8 minutes. I know there's a lot of people that probably want to watch that, but I've got 2 final points and questions on this one. But I tweeted this the other day. This is how our team is kind of shaping up. Obviously, there's a couple of players in yellow because we're unsure fully what the futures are. Mallard can now go to white or green because that is now confirmed. But Turland, Williams, Paris, and Guerrero, there's a couple of other players on there that I'm a bit unsure of their future on, but I don't think it's been reported yet, so that's why they're not in yellow on that team sheet. But when we look at that to me is an incredible squad. When we're looking at there, you're looking at the depth in certain positions. I still think we definitely need someone with Ladd in the defensive midfield. We definitely need, I think, another centre back because I don't think Mannion, her injury history is a bit sketchy. I'm not fully convinced Gemma Evans is potentially going to be here next season either. So there's a potential there that we're going to need in the centre back. But the rest, the midfield, even if Guerrero goes, I think the midfield's fine. I think we probably need another winger because I'd still expect Paris to be going. So then you're looking at a player behind Jace on the right hand side, and obviously a forward as well. Yeah, James, I left some of the youngsters off. So Ahern, Barry, Simpson, those kinds of players I've left off this list because I'm purely going off what a WSL squad would currently look like rather than like a Conti Cup, for example, where you may see the likes of Ahern, Simpson, and so on. What's everyone's thoughts on that so far? And looking at that it's because I can't lie to you. You add 2 or 3 more into that. I don't think it's that bad. You would think, looking at the online and everything else, that we have got one of the worst squads in the league with this crisis that United apparently are in. But I don't think it's that bad.
No, I think the big thing on that one is when you look at that midfield. I mean, Guerrero just barely played. Watson was injured. Clinton was out on loan. Miyazawa was injured for a lot of it. Gabby George was injured. Rabjon was injured. Riviere was injured. Mannion was injured. You look at all those players, and then you start to wonder, exactly why we had such a poor season in terms of the league, because it was incredibly tricky. So there's a guy in there who's just put, a fullback would be nice but not urgent. I mean, I couldn't disagree more. I think if we've learned anything from the 23-24 season, it's that we need to get ourselves a fullback, and we need to do that pretty bloody quickly, just in case, because Gabby George, please God it doesn't happen, but the last thing you would want is for her or Hannah or Jade to get an injury again early on in the season, and then all of a sudden we're struggling again. So I would quite like a fullback, just to help cover that. Unless, of course, he's going to actually pretend to put Maya Letitia in there. But what a squad that is. It's looking very good. And yeah, I think just one or two more additions to that, and we could be looking at, Barry being positive again at the start of the season and making you lot eventually believe.
Yeah, Jess, Andrew, have you got any thoughts? Lots put about, maybe we'll see Skinner play Clinton or Watson on the wing. Watson, I think, is a possibility to potentially play out wide. Clinton, I would hope not. But again, Watson is a player that has played out wide previously. She did it a lot for Rangers, has done it for Scotland as well. So I put Watson in that midfield because that's kind of where I'm expecting her, but that's not to say that previously she has been a lot on the wing, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her out on that right-hand side either. But yeah, just very quickly, Jess and Andrew, on this one, are we pretty happy with that? I'm going to take this off screen just while you're talking, so we don't have to lean to the sides.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. I think, like Barry said, we do need, a fullback, basically. I don't know when Gabby George is actually due back, but I think, maybe just about at the start of the season, but she's not going to be coming back and playing every single minute of every single game. And you also have to bear in mind, because we've seen it with a lot of other players that come back from ACL, for the first kind of few months, it seems really common to pick up niggles, especially kind of little hamstring injuries, because obviously the part of the hamstring is used in like the ACL reconstruction. So that's just something else to bear in mind, that any player kind of coming back from a knee injury like that, whilst their knee might be fine, for a few months, they're kind of susceptible to just pick up these little kind of muscle pulls. And I don't think that there's any way really of kind of preempting that almost, in terms of like prehab. You can strengthen, all your muscles up as much as you want kind of post-surgery, but all you can do is, getting actual game minutes is completely different, basically. You can practice and you can try and get your body as prepared as possible post-injury, but getting back on the pitch after a big injury like an ACL or something like that is completely different. We've seen clips of Watson back playing and in training. I think she's looking really good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. I think another few signings just to really kind of bolster the team. And, I think we're in kind of good stead. I think we were unlucky this season just gone with injuries, losing Gabby George so quickly, but we have to learn from that, like Barry said. And get a few extra players in. Suddenly, like Chelsea's tactic of hoarding players isn't such a bad thing.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a very good squad of capable of challenging for the top three as well. So it's just the position where Hayley Ladd is. If she was to get injured, we kind of need a backup, for her as well. And say or if there's any other player that can move into that role as well. So that's going to be a key position as well. So, but I think 2 or 3 more good signings, and we'll hopefully can hit the ground running. The one I'm particularly looking forward to is Evie Rabjon. I'm just seeing how she gets on, because seen her sister play for West Brom. I'm thinking she's really good. So I'm thinking, what we can expect from Evie as well. So great to see her get some minutes in the side as well. So, but yeah, definitely seems like a good playing squad. So just sees, if any more, have any more departures and any more incomings as well. So we'll see how we line up at the start of the season.
No, absolutely. As I said, it's not always as bad as people make out, as James said there. Right, my final question, just because, again, we've not done a live show since. We will be live again next week. I'll come to that at the end of the show. But my final question, because it was asked a couple of times in the comments. Paul asked it first, and said, where are we with the Wolfswood manager negotiations? Is there a genuine approach? JJ followed up, saying there's a genuine substance to it. As far as I'm aware, there is substance to this, that there are conversations, which I find incredibly interesting. And I want to get your guys' thoughts, then we'll look to wrap this one up. The fact that, if for people who haven't seen it, it was reported that Manchester United are in advanced negotiations with Tommy Stroop, the current Wolfsburg manager, who has already announced he is leaving at the end of next season anyway, on that one. Obviously, we know Mark Skinner is only tied down to a one-year deal, so the timelines kind of match up. Andrew, what's your thoughts on this one? Because this is strange. We're not even in pre-season yet, and there's already reports of us looking at another manager. Now, some people would say that's really proactive because you're thinking ahead to next year and planning ahead. But there's also an element of, well, we're not even started the season yet. We don't know where we're at.
And it's strange to say United don't start the season well. There's be Skinner's head's going to be called for, and then we want to get a new manager in, but it just all seems a bit weird, a bit like on the men's side, like with Ten Hag, and now that the review and where he's going to stay, and he goes, but he ended up staying. I'm just thinking the structure's being put in place now. See what Skinner can do with it, and so claim top three, another trophy as well. So, but then if that was the case, then you're going to move him on. I just find it all a bit weird, and we're still a couple of months away from the season starting. So, yeah, it just seems all a bit, a bit weird at the moment. So whether Skinner's, that's what he's agreed to, so I'll stay one more year and I'll leave. Who knows? But just think in some ways it's good United being proactive. Thinking about the future, but it just it's a strange one. I just don't get it at the moment.
Well, that's it. We don't know if Mark Skinner wasn't told that, and he's gone, yeah, that's fine. I'll stay for a year. Now, we know that there was obviously the reason for the delay of Mark's contract. Well, there was it was the length of the contract that was the issue. So I don't think that's potentially the case. Barry, what's your very kind of, I guess, brief thoughts on this? We might do a separate show just on this, I guess, close to the time if any more comes out on it. Johnson's mentioned could this be why Janssen came to us? I don't think so, but yeah, from what I understand, I think they get on. So there's a potential there.
I probably come in this from two camps. So the first camp would be that it's just a report. So at the end of the day, could be complete and utter baloney. There's nothing necessarily concrete that has come out of that. So that would be my first thought of it. The second one would be a little bit like Lanzel said. Is there a bit of due diligence going on there? Are we thinking that actually Mark Skinner was just a stopgap with Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying that he's too busy with the men's team at the moment and trying to sort that side out? Is he basically now trying to get a list of names together that could potentially be used if they do decide to get rid of Mark Skinner at the end of the season? So, yeah, it's one of those. I don't know enough about this chap to decide whether or not he would be a manager that I would particularly want for Manchester United. But, my biggest hope is that Mark Skinner has an absolute banger. We go on to win the league and we give him 5 more years, because if he manages that, I think he deserves it.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think I agree with James. I think the fact that they only gave him 1 year, I think definitely indicates that they just wanted a quick fix while they look at other areas. Otherwise, it would have been a 2 or a 3. It's a 1+1, so the options on the club side to give him another year at the end of that. Jess, do you agree with that? That maybe it's just us looking around and kind of just seeing, because ultimately, we know that Tommy is going to be available in a year's time. He's already announced he's leaving, to potentially get some kind of pre-contract agreement in place. So we're not in a situation in 9 months' time and Skinner's potentially on the way out that we're going, oh, my life, we need a manager, and we're trying to fight around trying to get one.
Yeah, I mean, one of the arguments I kind of had towards the end of last season of I wasn't really sure if I was Skinner out, Skinner in, whatever you want to call it. But my one thought was who the hell are we actually going to get in? So I think the fact we're being linked with someone is actually a huge positive really for United, because clearly we're taking steps basically, which is something that we didn't seem to be doing throughout the whole of last season. There wasn't really any kind of proactive thinking from, and this is only from like a fan's perspective. I obviously do not know what's going on behind the scenes, so this is a lot of kind of guessing. But we didn't really seem to kind of hear anything. There were no rumours about United approaching any other kind of managers. So I think it was always going to be there, like the link. We've already been through the fact that you just say the word United and you're going to get clicks on your article. So you've got a high-profile team that had a poor season and were kind of having issues with their manager, and you've got a high-profile manager about to leave a club. So the two are obviously always going to get kind of put together. But I would like to think that United are taking this seriously and are investigating, because why would you not? I think give Skinner a bit of a chance. Fair enough, you've offered him contract, but last season was not great. No one was particularly happy, obviously, other than the FA Cup win. So I think he's kind of warranted. We're giving him a contract now, so fair dues, see how you get on. But yeah, I think it would be remiss of United to not be looking for alternatives, to be honest, at this point, having seen what kind of happened last season. So yeah, fantastic, to be honest. And I'm fuming because I was actually watching the football before you made me talk, and now I've missed a goal, I think. So I'm just going to flip.
It's only Bruce, so who cares? Which is he for Man United playing? Does that have interest from an Ireland point of view? Is she starting? Everyone's quickly gone to their phones because no one knows off the top of their head.
Yes, she is.
I look at the England squad. What I care about the other one.
Yeah, same, to be fair.
Well, you're a Man United fan, Barry. You should care about the United players only.
Also, to be honest, I forgot it immediately. So
she is
the fan she is. Would you believe it, boys and girls? She's playing at Chaffey right back, if you believe Sky Sports.
There we go. Yes, I hope Man United scores as well. On that one, I'm keeping an eye on a few because obviously, is Janssen playing for the Dutch? She's not. Oh, she is. She's playing as a centre-back for the Dutch. So there we go. A couple of players to keep an eye on. And obviously Wales are currently in action as well. Hayley Ladd, Saf, Gemma Evans and Maisie Davis to keep an eye on that one. I think only Hayley is playing though for Wales. So you've only got her to watch at the moment. So we shall see. We're going to wrap it up there, though, so you guys can go off and watch your internationals, all that you want to go and watch on that one. Thank you, everyone, for watching and for sticking with us till the end of the show, because I appreciate we have gone a little bit over the hour mark. However, there's going to be a show next week, believe it or not. We actually are going to do another show next week, and I'm so excited for this. It was actually someone in our TikTok comments that brought this up, but it is an idea that we had on the WOFO channel. We are bringing the draft to this channel, so we are going to do a United Women's draft. The concept, very simple. There's 5 or... I don't know how to explain it. You've basically got a round each. You pick your player for the team that you want. So let's just say first round, Barry goes first. He picks Katie Zellum. I'll pick Honor, whoever. But this is from United's whole history. So every player that has got appearances, we're not counting players that were there that didn't get appearances, on there. And we're going to see whose team is the best come the end of it. So really interesting to see how this plays out, because there's a couple of players that are... or a couple of positions, I should say, where United were lacking. Fullbacks. United haven't had many fullbacks over the 6-7 years that they've been in business. So that's going to be interesting. But Monday, 7:15, we'll be going live. And that was just a little bit later than 7 o'clock. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Follow all the socials, All for United WFC, on absolutely everything. Make sure you're liking the video, subscribing, all of that kind of good stuff. Great to have you all in. Some old faces, some new faces. You're all very much welcome in here. And we shall see you guys in the next one.